Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of The Locker Room with your host here, Ryan Neff. Going around the world in sports today. Some interesting stuff. But in the green room right now, I can see him, obviously, because we were talking beforehand. But before I bring him on, I've got to do it. I've got that's Mr. Patrick Garbin. Patrick, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Ryan. How are you, sir?
Oh, look, football season, everything's in swing. Again, like I said in the green room, when college football starts, you want to enjoy the full season. But before you know it, we're halfway through the season already. So it's just unbelievable how fast it goes. Patrick Garbin, obviously, he covers Georgia Bulldogs football. Before I get into stats and stuff like that, Patrick, dare I say that it's sort of been a interesting, sort of lackluster, disappointing season so far for Georgia?
I think what can be said is this season has been kind of just uncharacteristic of Kirby Smart teams in the past from a variety of reasons. I can give many examples. I can go from what I see. I can tell you I don't think a Georgia team has ever tackled as poorly as I've seen in the last 8-9 years. As poorly in pass coverage as I've seen from this team. Then I could tell you stats. I mean, Georgia's allowing more than 5 yards a play. For example, Georgia hadn't done that since 2016. That was Kirby Smart's first year when they went 8-5. Mm-hmm. So it's this year's just been a different team. It's not. I mean, they're still one of the nation's best, and maybe when it's all said and done, the nation's best. But I don't think they're let's say amongst Georgia's greatest, like you could claim for 21 through 23. Mm-hmm. And, maybe not even amongst the top, say, 3 or 4 in the country when it all's said and done. So we'll see.
Yeah, you're talking about stats. I'm just like, I pulled some of the stuff up. Offensively, total offense, overall, they're 40th from what I'm seeing here. I'll stick with the offense for now. Yards per game. Where did I see them at? I'm trying to go down the list here, and I still don't see them. So I'm not exactly sure where they are in yards per game. I'm still looking for them on the list. Oh, there they are. They're 23rd. Rushing yards per game. They're having a little bit of trouble running the ball. They're 39th overall.
That's been an issue.
Passing, they're 8th overall. So, but when you look at I'll get to the defense in a second. But when you look at the overall offense, I was watching some of the Mississippi State game and then some of the other games like Kentucky. I don't think I've ever seen them, probably since Kirby Smart's been there, them having issues running the ball like they have. And on the flip side of that, Carson Beck's turning it over a little bit too much for my liking.
Yeah, and what the Carson has thrown 5 picks, but granted, all 5 of them were against either Bama or Mississippi State, and you could, 2 or 3 of those were. I mean, one of them was kind of late, so I mean, I don't know about Beck's, but I do think an issue it has been the running game. I was thinking earlier, this Georgia team, they just can't. Whereas other teams in the past, they could line up against certain teams and just run the ball with their offensive line and just beat you. They could line you up and beat teams. And I don't think this running game could just line up against anybody and just run the ball and beat anybody. They haven't showed it yet this season, and I think it's been an issue. I think it's going to be an issue at Texas. In fact, I think Georgia's going to have some good offense success at Texas, but honestly, Ryan, I see it primarily coming all through the passing game.
Mm-hmm. Defensive wise, opponents' yards per game, they're sitting 39th defensively. That's got to be sort of uncharacteristic. I mean, that's not going. It's not going to make Kirby Smart real happy, obviously. Let's see here. Like you said, opponents' yards per play, it's over 5 yards a play. Just going through some of the other stats. Again, for some odd reason, they've got no balance defensively. It's just like they're doing well in one game in the run game. They're struggling in the passing game defensively, and then sometimes it's like vice versa. But
Or like against Mississippi State, they hold them to 12 total yards on like 15 plays in the first quarter.
mm-hmm.
And we're sitting in the press box. I am looking up like the fewest yards Georgia's ever given up to an SEC opponent. I mean, that's where I'm thinking this is going.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, I mean, Mississippi State's Auburn offense looks like, well, speaking of Auburn of 2010 or something. Mm-hmm. They just can't be stopped, and that's been so uncharacteristic of a Georgia team to defensively just suddenly regress during a game. And Ryan, I'm going to point back to what I said. I've never seen a Kirby Smart team tackle as poorly
mm-hmm.
or be as substandard in coverage, especially from the cornerbacks. And I think I talked to you maybe in the preseason or right before as the season started. I said, keys to this team, they were going to need to force turnovers and they were going to need to, not give a lot up on the run. Well, guess what? They're allowing about 4 yards a carry again, which is what they did last year after allowing less than 3 yards a carry 4 years in a row. And again, they're just not forcing turnovers. I think Georgia's only forced 2 or more turnovers twice in the last 17 games. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you only four? I mean, that's crazy. You're only in 15 of the last 17 games, you're only forcing 1 or 0 turnovers. And I tell you, I was looking through everything I'd written down and it dawned on me, for Georgia to have a good shot in this game, they're going to have to force turnovers, I think.
Yeah.
And they haven't for seasons. So I don't know. I'll be honest, I'm not the most optimistic about Georgia's chances going in here, but mostly because they haven't shown it. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of I'll believe it when I see it type. They've after beating Clemson and covering, they haven't covered in 5 mm-hmm. straight games. Mm-hmm. They have. In fact, the only thing Georgia's been consistent at this year is not covering the spread. Pretty much. I mean, now that I think about it, so there's just Georgia. There's just no confidence that this team's all of a sudden just going to show up and play 100% and whip Texas. But at the same time, this team, they're capable of mm-hmm. doing something like that. And although I favor Texas in this game, it would not be surprising if the real Georgia, if you will, shows up, plays like the top team in the country, and actually, actually proves that they're better than Texas is. So we'll see. I mean,
Kentucky played them tough. Obviously, anytime you get an SEC road win, it's a good thing. I think they were looking ahead a little bit to Alabama, but Auburn sort of lackluster for me. Mississippi State, they sort of lollygag through it. Did the Alabama game take a lot out of them, do you think?
I don't know. Some could point to offensively, it put a lot into them. With that second half, and then the offense did fairly well against Auburn, and then actually against Mississippi State. It gained over 600 yards. Granted, it was against Mississippi State,
Right.
so I don't know. I think Ryan, it's been tough to tell these last 2 weeks coming off the Bama loss. I think that's why this game is such a big. This game will show where Georgia's at. It's a huge game because at the
Hmm.
same time, it could decide if they're going to be in the playoff or not
Right.
here in mid October. It could be decided like that. A bad loss to Texas giving you a second loss, I don't think you can get a third loss
Hmm.
and make the playoffs. So it's a huge game, and like I said, I really don't like Georgia's chances. If I'm being honest,
Hmm.
I see them dropping something in like a shootout type thing, but at the same time, it's still Georgia.
Right.
And Kirby Smart, he had to play the underdog role much, but when he does, he's good at it. 7-4 against the spread, including 4 outright upsets. So who knows? Who knows? It should be a good matchup, though. I'm looking forward to watching it.
What do you need to see going forward? Because I'm looking at the rest of the schedule here. What do they need to do to improve upon the most to say, we're going to win these next 6 games and we're going to make the college football playoff?
I think it's the few
Okay,
things
there it is.
that that haven't been evident from other Kirby Smart's teams, like physicality. This team lacks physicality, plain and simple. Um, like I mentioned earlier, has tackled poorly on occasion. Their coverage has been poor. I think those things are going to improve. Other things, though, as far as they need a big playmaker. Ryan, they entering this season, they lost 4 of their top 5 receivers. Okay.
Receivers.
So
Yep.
they're already down, right? They then lose Ra Thomas early on, right?
Hmm.
Because he's booted off the team. So that's
Hmm.
5 of 6. And then they lose Colby Young here recently, who led them in receiving against Auburn because of arrest. It's been tough sledding, but yet, Carson Beck's going out there slinging for nearly 500 yards.
Right.
So who knows what could happen in this game? Georgia's been tested. I question if Texas has been. So I like that. But in the end, like I said, I'm kind of the old school. Show me,
Hmm.
I'll see it or I'll believe it when I see it. And yeah, I haven't quite seen it from Georgia yet.
I'm like you. Yesterday, I picked on the college football show. I picked Texas to win. I just there's just something seems to be amiss with Georgia right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
I agree.
do I think it'll be a tight game? Yeah, I mean Georgia's not going to go down without a fight. And look, Quinn Ewers didn't look all that spectacular in his week back after being a month off. Then they get to bye a week, then they're going to just absolutely destroy my Gators because again, we won't even get into Florida because Billy Napier needs to go.
Hey,
Um,
I'll go ahead and tell you something. If Georgia loses to Texas and then you get that bye week, I don't care what the point spread is against Florida. You go ahead and give me Kirby and Georgia. Um,
yeah,
that's about a lot. He does real well against Florida anyway. And
yeah.
if Georgia's 5-2 and desperately trying to stay in the playoff picture, I'll give you a early heads up on that one. But Georgia's got to lose first, and that might be hard. But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt, Ryan.
That's okay. Then they go to Oxford to play Mississippi. Mississippi, they played
Yeah,
Kentucky, could have won that game. They didn't, and then you know gave it away against LSU. Basically, I give all the credit to LSU, but Mississippi, I thought they'd be do a little bit more. I know it's away, but I think Georgia wins that game. Um, then Tennessee at home. Look, the Tennessee in the first three games of the season is not the same team as they are now. When they're playing stiffer competition, they look just like a regular SEC team, to be quite honest with you. I give them that game, and then poor UMass um, comes in between the hedges. That's a joke. And then, of course, the rivalry game against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech might be a tough out just because it's a rivalry game, but
Hey, just 6 days later too, on a Friday
yeah,
night.
yep.
First non-Saturday game in Athens in 30 years. So that'll be kind of neat.
So I posed the question to you, Patrick. If they lose to Texas and they run the table the rest of the way, do they make the college football playoff?
Oh, at 10-2?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a lock. If 9-3 is when it could be uh
Mm-hmm.
touch and go. I think, Ryan, I think at the beginning of the year, I think there was a notion that, a strong 9-3 SEC team like Georgia
Mm-hmm.
will likely get in. But now, as we're in mid-October, and you're kind of looking at this, looking at the rankings, and you kind of figure out if this team beats it. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of let's say eligible, if you will, 10-2 and higher teams, to where
Mm-hmm.
there might be a really, really good 9-3, let's say LSU team
Mm-hmm.
that might not get in the playoff because of a 10-2 lesser, you know,
Right.
you follow the ACC
Yeah.
team,
Yeah.
or an 11-1 Army team or something like that. So we'll see what's going to happen. But yeah, I think at 10-2, you definitely get in, no doubt.
I mean, looking at some of the, I mean, like you look at Texas. I mean, obviously they play Georgia, but then they go to Vanderbilt. Not as easy as it might seem
Oh
now.
yeah,
They play my Gators, which whatever. Um, then they've got to go to Arkansas. Arkansas is not going to be afraid of anybody coming in there. They just beat Tennessee. Then they are home against Kentucky. Kentucky might give them a little bit of back, and then Texas A&M. Texas A&M sits atop the SEC right now, along with Texas. So I'm they'll be favored in every game, but the way the year's gone, Patrick, with NIL and other players going other places, I didn't think anybody in the SEC would go undefeated. Texas might have an opportunity, but it's not like Texas has a cakewalk.
no, I mean it's tough. And by the way, once you get through this gauntlet of a regular season, if you are one of the top two teams, you're then playing who could very likely be the top team in the country in the conference championship game. You haven't
Mm-hmm.
even made the playoffs yet. So that's why, yeah, the SEC, it's especially adding these two teams, and you just added a team that's now ranked number one after you had another team who was number one in 2021. I mean, it's kind of crazy what the SEC is just becoming. It's getting stronger, it seems, and yeah, it's the world of college football, right?
So, what are you looking for the rest of the SEC season? Because there's a lot of football to be played. I look at some of these teams. Alabama with the horrible loss at Vanderbilt. They should have lost last week. Of course, Crimson Tide are ready to jump into the Gulf of Mexico, drive down, and God forbid. Tennessee started off strong. A little bit of disappointing the last couple of weeks. Texas A&M, a little bit of surprise for me. Mizzou with the horrible loss against Texas A&M. Ole Miss thought they would do more. They faltered a little bit. LSU, they've had a couple of close games. And then you throw in some of the other like teams in there. Arkansas not afraid to play anybody. What are you looking for the rest of the SEC season? Obviously, Texas right now the cream of the crop, but they're going to have others breathing down their neck.
Well, yeah, and you know what, Ryan, you just went through all the teams, right? All the top teams, and there was, we'll call it an issue with every single one of them. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even Texas. I mean, there's not a clear cut, hey, this like in the past. Oh yeah, there are plenty of times. Oh yeah, Florida and
Yeah,
Tennessee, they'll at least go, 7-1 and contend for the Eastern time. It's I don't know. I think more and more so, and it has to do with NIL and the money and what you described. There's becoming more parity in SEC football. A friend of mine said something the other day. It's like it's like the NFL almost in a way. We start paying these guys, and a
yep,
lot of these times can start moving around, and the next thing
yep,
you know, you can have a team that
yep.
like some of these NFL teams that go 13-4, 14-3, 15-2, and then all of a sudden 7-10.
Yep.
And that's what we're maybe looking at now. And maybe that's what college football is. You want to pay these guys, it's now a professional type league.
Yeah.
It's now much more parity. There's not going to be as much dominance, and teams that win back-to-back national titles maybe should have contended for a third one and then ranked fourth in the fourth season could actually wind up with 3 or 4 losses.
Right.
Maybe that's where we are.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think bottom line, this Georgia team's great. It's a good, solid team. It's not one of the greatest, and
Mm-hmm.
you may need one of the greatest in Austin this Saturday. So it's going to be tough.
So, looking ahead to the Texas game here, Georgia wins if they do this. Georgia loses if they don't do this.
Georgia wins if they can force turnovers.
Okay.
But like I said, they've only forced 2 or more twice in the last 17 games. So that's going to be tough. But that's plain and simple to me. Is I don't. Do you have? I'm sorry. Do you have a second? Was there a second part to that? If Texas,
Yeah, Georgia will lose the game if they don't. What you already mentioned the turnovers, but take the turnovers out of it. They lose the game if they don't do this.
yeah. Well, if they simply are, if they continue playing like they've been playing, they will
Mm-hmm.
lose. Yeah.
Okay.
However, they have the talent to not only win this game, but I think they have the talent to easily win this game. They plenty of talent. However, they haven't demonstrated that to me since the Orange Bowl, really, or the second half of the Clemson game in the
Right.
season opener for as far as a complete Georgia football game. So yeah, they're going to have to play, Ryan, what a lot of Georgia followers have kind of been waiting on
Mm-hmm.
is that complete game. That's what Georgia's going to need to have to win in Austin.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Patrick Garbin. He covers Georgia Bulldogs football. I enjoy speaking with him every time he comes on. Plethora of knowledge. Tell all the people out there in social media land where they can get a hold of you, where they can read your stuff. Just go through the whole thing.
Yeah. So on Twitter or X, it's at Patrick Garbin. And yeah, you can find my stuff and all our stuff at ugasports.com. We're the Georgia site for the Rivals Network. We got everything: analysis, team stuff, history, a ton of recruiting, deals, podcast. It's we're the best out there as far as covering Georgia football. So ugasports.com of the Rivals Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, get your popcorn ready for Georgia, Texas this weekend. Patrick, enjoy the game, man.
All right, Ryan. You too,
All right,
man.
Patrick.
We'll
All
talk
right,
to you
take care.
soon.
Yep, take care. Mr. Patrick Garbin, Georgia Bulldogs. He covers the Georgia Bulldogs. Um, I my heart my heart says Georgia, but my head's saying Texas. Um, but it's always a pleasure when he comes on here. Some news and notes from around the world in sports. Today's headlines. Go figure on this one. The NCAA closes loophole on Oregon's 12-man penalty since Dan Lanning shot his mouth off and said that they purposely rolled 12 players out there on defense. Uh, so here we go. It is a new rule because of what happened on Saturday. If the defense now has 12 players actively participate on aforementioned down, whether it's first, second, third, fourth, the offense can choose, along with a 5-yard penalty, to have the game clock reset to the time that had been displayed at the snap. You got all that? So 12 players on the field. They actively participate on the down. They get flagged for it. Now, 5-yard penalty. And said offensive team can say, hey, there's 12 seconds on the clock right now. We snapped the ball with 17 seconds. They can have it go back to 17 seconds. All because of what happened Saturday. And of course, Dan Lanning, if he just would have kept his mouth shut. We spend an inordinate amount of time on situations, and some situations don't come up very often in college football. But this was obviously something we had worked on. You can see the result. And if you go back and take a look at and I was even questioning what was going on. Just before the ball was snapped, Oregon defensive back Dante Manning walked onto the field, giving the Ducks an extra defender, which was 12 guys on the field. Ohio State failed to complete a pass against Oregon's 12-man defense, and the Ducks were flagged for an illegal substitution penalty, surrendering the 5 yards, but they also took 4 seconds off the clock. Now you're not going to be able to take that time off the clock. Yeah. Doesn't do Ohio State any good right now, though, does it? WNBA right now in the first period, the Minnesota Lynx are up on the New York Liberty, 26-13. If anybody wants to know, you can tune into that game on ESPN. Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark on Wednesday became the league's first rookie since Candace Parker in 2008 to be named to the All WNBA first team, while Naphesia Collier of Minnesota, Aja Wilson of Las Vegas were also unanimous selections. Brianna Stewart and Alyssa Thomas were also first-team selections. Caitlin Clark is the 5th rookie ever to have that honor, joining Parker Sue Bird, Tamika Catchings, and Diana Taurasi. So good for them. It's now 28-16 Minnesota. Again, the Devontae Adams trade to the Jets, Hassan Reddick, they have granted him a request for a trade. Why play now? We're almost 7 games into the season. The Super Bowl, San Francisco 49ers, they said they've looked at the Super Bowl tape, but they moved on from the Chiefs' loss. That's why you're 3-3. Not good news for the Saints. Wide receiver Rashid Shaheed is going to have surgery on his knee. Could potentially go on injured reserve. Chris Olave concussion. He's ruled out for Thursday Night Football. Take the Broncos. You don't have Olave. Olave. Whoa. And you don't have Rashid Shaheed. Shaheed. Take the Broncos all the way. Lay your money on the Broncos. If the Saints win this game, then shame on the Broncos for not winning. Right now, the National League Championship Series, the NLCS. Top of the second, it's still 0-0, Mets Dodgers. Let's go over some scores as they're happening, ladies and gentlemen. In the NHL, early in the season, only 4 games on the slate today. Late in the second period, the Sabres are on top of the Penguins 3-2. End of the first, the Toronto Maple Leafs all over the Los Angeles Kings 3-0. 9:30 p.m., the Bruins take on the Avalanche, and at 10, the Utah Hockey Club take on the Anaheim Ducks. NFL news and notes. Didn't see any sort of major moves that have gone on. Russell Wilson is taking first team reps in practice. He's going to be starting the game against the Jets, ladies and gentlemen. Justin Fields 4-2 as a starter. Tied for first in the division. 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, passing. And by the way, Russell Wilson's starting this week. Thanks for your services. Thanks for getting us to 4-2. But now it's time to throw Russell Wilson out there. What if Russell Wilson struggles? Then what are you going to do? What if he just sucks out loud in like the first and second quarter? Then what? The Steelers' offense now has built up a rapport with Justin Fields under center. Now you're going to throw Russell out there. What if he struggles? What if they lose to the Jets? Then what do you do? It's not like Justin Fields he hasn't been like gangbusters. He's 4-2. You're tied with Baltimore for the division lead. Let's it's the Jets. Let's throw Russell out there, see what he can do. Jets are struggling. It would not surprise me if the Steelers lose this game, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, because they're starting Russell Wilson, I'm picking the Jets to win this game. That's the Sunday night game on NBC. I made my picks for the NFL this week. I'll go over them again. I think the Broncos will beat the Saints tomorrow. The Saints, after starting 2-0, are just a mess. Injury riddled now. Kamara's beat up. Olave's out. Shaheed's out. Broncos all the way. Denver's favored by 3. Sunday morning, the game nobody wants to watch. At 9:30 in London. Patriots take on the Jags. Jacksonville's favored by 5.5, so somebody knows something that I don't. I'm still taking the Patriots until the Jags prove it to me that they can win. Maybe they all went and had fish and chips and a pint of Guinness and sung Kumbaya and everything. But until they prove it to me, I'm taking the Patriots. Seahawks, Falcons. Not really liking the way the Seahawks look right now. I'm taking the Falcons. Titans, Bills. Bills all the way. Browns, Bengals. Bengals. Deshaun really doesn't have anybody to throw to now that Amari's gone. Texans, Packers. A lot of people are on the Pack. I'm taking the Texans. Dolphins, Colts. Dolphins still a mess. I'm taking the Colts. Lions, Vikings. I think the Lions will rally around the fact that Aiden Hutchinson's hurt. Gone for the year. Vikings favored by 2. I'm taking Detroit, though. Eagles, Giants. Eagles fans ready to commit Harry Carey. They're ready to take this team and just put them in a blender. Again, they're 3-2. They're a game out of first place. The Commanders will crash back to earth. Believe me. Defensive coordinators now have 6 games to see what Jaden Daniels' tendencies are. I get it. Commanders are 4-2. I still think the Eagles win the division. Giants, I know they give the Eagles fits sometimes, but Devontae Smith is back. A.J. Brown is back. Eagles will win the game. Raiders, Rams. There might be a Cooper Kupp sighting this weekend. I don't care. I think the Raiders win. Panthers, Commanders. Washington. Chiefs, 49ers. I, as a Chiefs fan, they've got to lose at some point. I'm taking San Francisco. I've got to be realistic sometimes. Steelers, Jets. I'm taking the Jets just because I think Russell's going to struggle. And then on Monday, the geniuses in the NFL decide to go back to 2 Monday night games. Ravens, Buccaneers. I'm actually taking the Buccaneers. I don't know why. Chargers, Cardinals. It's hardball ball. It's grind you to death. Play solid defense. I'm taking the Chargers. So there you have it. If you're wondering about Major League Baseball, the score now, the Dodgers are up 2-0. Top of the second. And that just flashed across my screen. They're still in the top of the second. Let's see. Smith reached on infield single to shortstop. Muncy scored. Hernandez to third. Erdman hit a sacrifice fly to center. Mr. Hernandez scored. 2-0. Dodgers. Everybody wants to see Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge in the World Series. That's what everybody's praying for. Yankees and Dodgers fans. I can't stand the Yankees or the Dodgers. I'd rather see Mets Guardians, but for the most part, probably not going to happen. So, yeah, it'll probably wind up being the Yankees and the Dodgers. First time, I think, since the 70s that they would face off. Everybody remembers those 70s battles between the Yankees and the Dodgers. Early on, if anybody wants to know the NHL standings early on in this NHL season, on the Eastern Conference, the Atlantic Division, the Florida Panthers are 3-2. Right now on top. Tampa Bay Lightning are 2-0. Maple Leafs 2-1. Senators 2-1. Canadiens 2-2. Bruins 2-2. Red Wings 1-2. Sabres 1-3. In the Metropolitan, New Jersey sits on top with a 4-2 record. Rangers 2-0-1. Penguins 2-2. Islanders 1-1-1. Flyers 1-1-1. Capitals 1-1, Hurricanes 1-1, and the Columbus Blue Jackets 1-2. Western Conference in the Central, Stars, who are my pick to make it to the Stanley Cup from the Western Conference. They're 4-0. Winnipeg Jags, Jets 3-0. Minnesota Wild 2-0-2. The Utah Hockey Club 3-1. St. Louis Blues 2-2. Chicago Blackhawks 1-2-1. The Predators are 0-3. The Avalanche are 0-3. In the Pacific, the Calgary Flames are 4-0. The Vegas Golden Knights 3-1. The Los Angeles Kings are 1-0-2. The Kraken 2-2. The Ducks 1-1. The San Jose Sharks are 0-1-2. Vancouver Canucks 0-1-2. The Edmonton Oilers are 1-3. What to watch for this weekend? Again, college football. You have some decent matchups in the top 25. Let me go down the college football schedule. I'll go down the whole thing. I'll tell you some games that you should be watching. This week, tomorrow at 7:30 on ESPN, Georgia Tech and Boston College face off in the ACC. Should be a decent little matchup. On Friday, at 10:15 on ESPN, if you could stay up for it, Oklahoma State travels to BYU to take on the 13th ranked BYU Cougs. Can Oklahoma State pull off the upset? Probably not. And then on Saturday, Miami plays Louisville. ACC matchup. Might be a good one. Also at 12, Nebraska plays Indiana. 16th ranked Indiana. Nebraska's 5-1, Indiana 6-0 in a Big Ten tussle. Should be a good one. Going down the rest of the schedule here. A sneaky good game might be at 12 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Arizona State 5-1 takes on Cincinnati 4-2 in a Big 12 matchup. 3:30 p.m. Alabama and Tennessee square off at 5-1 apiece. Always a tough one in the SEC. Also at 3:30, Notre Dame, number 12 Notre Dame takes on Georgia Tech, 5-1 and 5-2 respectively. Georgia Tech might give them a little bit of a tussle there. I'm actually picking Georgia Tech to win. Number 24 Michigan takes on number 22 Illinois in a Big Ten matchup. That's at 3:30. That should be a nice little matchup. Just going down the list here. Yada, yada, yada. Still going. Sneaky good SEC game, which I'm picking Arkansas to win this one. Number 8 LSU travels to Arkansas to take on the Razorbacks. Arkansas is not scared to play anybody. I'm taking Arkansas to win that game. Georgia, Texas. I already told you I took Texas. That's about it. Oh, another sneaky good game Saturday night that you might want to tune into if you can stay up that late. 10 o'clock on the CW network. 5-1 UNLV takes on 4-2 Oregon State. That might be another sneaky good game. Already went over the MDL schedule. Hope everybody's favorite team does well this weekend. If you know what to look for in the NFL this week, again, just some side things I'm looking for. Patriots, Jags. Really, if the Jags lose this game, are they going to finally fire Doug Peterson? He's hanging on by a thread. The battle of the Paul Brown franchises. If the Bengals can beat the Browns and the Bengals go to 3-4, watch out. And if the Browns fall to 1-6, does Zach Taylor get fired? You want to keep sticking with Deshaun Watson. Now Amari Cooper's gone. I mean, it's already imploded, but now you're talking like there'll be nothing left. Texans Packers. I want to see how the Packers defense stacks up against the Texans offense with Joe Mixon back for the Texans, and vice versa. Lions Vikings. Do the Lions rally around the fact that their leader is mostly done? It's done for the season. And how are the Vikings going to be after they come off a bye? And my Chiefs and the 49ers. Chiefs have floored it with a couple of losses already. I just think San Francisco is going to win this game. Jets Steelers. Want to see how Russell Wilson plays. And the Ravens Bucks. Ravens are great against the run, but their back end right now kind of stinks. How are they going to match up against Godwin and Evans? So I think that's going to do it for this edition of The Locker Room, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for everybody that tunes in. Thanks for Patrick Garbin for coming on. Always a plethora of knowledge when it comes to the SEC and obviously Georgia Bulldogs football. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your week. The next time you'll see me will be Sunday night on End Zone to End Zone with Mike Fuji Fiordimando. We will recap week number 7 of the. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, week number 7 in the NFL. Look ahead to week 8. Stay safe out there, everybody. Treat everybody kindly. Hug your loved ones. Tell them you love them. Treat everybody nice. Treat everybody kind. Show compassion and passion. Those are lost arts. So without further ado, I am going to say goodnight from the locker room.